Hi everyone and welcome to the UBI Global Headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden on this beautiful Wednesday, the 3rd of June 2015. Today we have an exciting day ahead of us with 10 different webinars in 7 languages presenting results from the UBI Global Benchmark of 2015. The webinars will show preliminary insights of different regions and how the landscape looks like. This specific one is going to be about North America and I hope you'll enjoy it. So let's go! UBI Global. What is good for you to know is that we help business incubators become more efficient and competitive through the world's most comprehensive benchmark. The agenda for today is focusing on the global benchmark results of 2015, but with a North American point of view. So before we dig deeper into the data from the North American landscape, I want to take the opportunity to speak a little bit about UBI Global as a company, and also give you some background of the benchmark process, how we have actually done it. Then, of course, the interesting part, the landscape data from North America, the benefits of a UBI benchmark, what all of these guys and incubators receive, and then the next steps ahead. So how does the timeline and announcement dates look like? And then in the end we have some room for Q&A. So I urge you to save your questions to the end, but please use the comment field so I can go it through and answer them one by one. I hope that is okay with you. So let's start. The company overview about UBI Global. UBI Global headquarters is in Stockholm, Sweden, but we actually have a research team based in Paris, France. We're known as the leaders in business incubator performance assessment, and these are the 4 founders of the company. We are a for-profit company. I think it's good for you guys to know. Our mission statement is that we want to help support the entrepreneur to create successful businesses by facilitating activities such as information exchange among the local, regional, and national support system of business incubation. We have a truly remarkable team behind the organization that can make this happen, and internally we are now speaking 12 languages, and I think that's one of the strengths that we have, and we are able to communicate all over the world. And of course we cannot do this all alone. We have a great advisory board, and I'm gonna show you quite soon who they are, and a network of experts that we bounce ideas and validate everything that we do. The advisory board is a network of international global expert and top thinkers. These are the guys that we are using and validating everything that we do and make sure that we're on track of what the market and the industry said. Among them are Jonathan Bradford, Managing Director of Techstars in London. We have the lovely Paolo Borella from Microsoft App Campus, Jelena Angelis from a policy innovation point of view from governments from the Technopolis Group, Kjell-Håkan Närfelt from the Swedish Innovation Agency for Growth, Vinnova, and then Regina, Oriol, and Susanne here, all from different backgrounds, helping forming the incubation of tomorrow. And we owe a lot of gratitude to these guys to be able to show all of this great work that we are providing the business incubators. A lot of people ask UBI, so what do you work with? Who do you target? Who is your target group? And of course, what's the business model? I really like this slide because it shows that a business incubator is not a single entity, but it's part of an ecosystem, and we want to show that for once we have put the university and the business incubators in the center. You are helping the startups entrepreneurs in the best way you can, but we want to help you. And but for helping you, we also know that you're dependent on so many stakeholders. So it's governments out there, it's the investment community, it's the corporations, it's the trade associations, and of course the universities and research institutes. These are all the actors that we work with in certain ways. We provide consultancy offer, and we provide with them with aggregated data, excuse me, and insights and best practices. But for the university business incubators and the universities themselves, our business model is quite easy. We offer a membership, and in these memberships, there's a free tier and two paid tiers. All of our services is included. So, as mentioned, all of the incubators that are eligible to participate in our benchmark are automatically considered as a standard member. So if you have an incubator out there that wants to participate, you have to become a member. Doesn't cost you anything. We have eligibility criteria. But if you're not eligible but you still want to become a member, that's not a problem at all. The only thing that you will not be able to do is to be part of the benchmark, but everything else around it, in terms of newsletters, guides, our services, access to data, that will be offered to you. Then we know that certain incubators programs out there, they would like to network a little bit. They want to connect with other incubators, both on and offline. They want to share those best practices and exchange ideas, and that's part of our silver membership package, which has an annual fee of $1,500. But then we also know that there's some incubators out there that wants to take even a next step further to getting material for communicating with different stakeholders. So more in-depth insights, analysis to develop the program, and that's $2,500 fee. But this membership includes what you get and all of the benefits from it you can find on our website ubiglobal.com/member. I mentioned earlier in the entrepreneurial ecosystem image that we also work with corporations, and we would like to highlight a specific project that we are actually doing right now, and it's working with CISCO. And more specific with the CISCO corporate affairs. So as part of their CSR efforts, they asked UBI to do a benchmark, the world's first benchmark that targets business incubators with social innovation focus. So that means that those business incubators that have companies that work with social entrepreneurship. And the idea of the benchmark is to establish a credible public data to use to catalyze a network of these incubators and encourage social innovation entrepreneurship at universities and at incubator programs in the United States. So this is a pilot project that we are doing during the spring, and the idea is to expand it globally the year 2 and forward. So please stay tuned for this collaboration, and I think you will find some truly interesting insights and best practices for this sector focus. The benchmark process. We just want to show you how we do it and what's behind the scenes here at UBI. So everything is based on this framework, and this framework again is developed together with all of those experts and advisors that we have, and it's spearheaded from our head of research, Drew Butley. Drew's amazing in compiling all the data and making sense of it. And it consists of 3 categories. The first category is called value for the ecosystem. So it's basically what kind of impact the incubator creates on its ecosystem. And it consists of 2 subcategories, which is economy enhancement and talent retention. The second category is the value for clients, and in this case clients means the startups the incubators have in-house. So how do the incubators help with competence development? How do the incubators help with access to funds and access to network? And we try to measure those indicators. And then we have a third category which we call attractiveness, and that is part of the incubator offer and services, but also post-incubation performance, because it actually says something, of course, on the incubation program if the incubatees or the startup companies, after they've been graduated, if they still survive and grow and are profitable, or even get merged, acquired, and IPO'd. So people ask us, so okay, UBI, you have this great framework. Can you answer the question, what is a successful business incubator? Or more specifically, what is a successful university business incubator? And the answer is quite easy. It's an incubator that performs well across all categories. We know that certain incubators have an extremely well network, or are extremely well of creating jobs, or extremely well in terms of mentorship and program, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that you're good on everything. But what we have found, a top incubator performs well across all categories, and those are the ones that we would like to highlight and share the best practices. This year we're going to dig deeper into certain subcategories and show some examples of incubators that performs quite well on specific ones, but we always will promote the ones that are doing well across all categories. I think that's important to remember. So how does the benchmark process look like? Well, first we collect the data, and the way we collect the data is that we talk with the incubator managers themselves. We send them a survey. We do a quantitative data survey. We do interviews to make sure that we have a diverse and well balanced sample of incubators and really good quality of the data. But once the data gets in, we have to treat it. So we are using statistical methods, we are cleaning the data, it's treated, it's set capped, and we do normalize. And normalize is important because that's the way we can compare a life science incubator with an ICT one. We try to make sure the data is comparable using this kind of statistical methods. And when we have done that, we can give scores to all of these incubators based on that framework that we have. Once we have set scores, we adjust it. So how do we adjust it? Well, depending on the incubator type, the incubator ecosystem, the incubator age, and the incubator sector, we try to adjust them in those scores so we make it relevant. And why is this important? Well, a young incubator that is, let's say, less than 3 years old is not well developed maybe as a 5 or 6 or even a 10-year-old incubator, so we have to adjust it by putting weights. In terms of the ecosystem, we know that there's more advantageous ecosystem, let's say in Silicon Valley versus an incubator that is in Estonia or somewhere else in Middle East. So we have to weigh that up. In terms of the type, we know that business accelerators and innovation centers differs a little bit from, of course, from the incubator. So we have to make an adjustment. And naturally, in terms of sectors, so the ICT incubators are put in a specific basket versus the life sciences one, and then we try to normalize that so we can compare them. So when we have done that, we have validated, we can create a ranking. Once we have that ranking, we have a reference line, which we then benchmark all the incubators against, and they will show the results. And the ones that gets the highest score gets the top ranking, gets on our top ranking list. It's sounds easy or sounds complicated, but it's a really nice process behind it. It's continuously improved, and we try to involve experts around it to make this as a fair and again the world's most comprehensive benchmark out there. So there's some things that we need to handle in terms of validity and reliability. So how do we ensure that? Well, because it's self-reported data, it's quite easy for us to see after such a big large data set that who are the cheaters and who are not. The system kind of flies on itself, so they are of course rejected quite immediately. And then we have outliers. So with that said, it can be an incubator that have an extremely well performance or extremely low, but we have to set caps and make it relevant in that case so it doesn't skew. And in terms of validation, we also ask for support in documents when we do the qualitative interviews to make sure that we increase the level even further. The variables part is quite important. So all of these different variables that we have chosen and the KPIs are universal considered. So that means that all programs should be able to have them and should be able to measure upon. And we try to standardize them so we can make it comparable. When we look at ecosystem in different countries, there are actually good secondary sources to use to adjust it. So for example, an incubator in Lithuania gets higher weights in terms of their scores versus an incubator in the US to adjust for the ecosystem, because the US ecosystem is more advantageous than the Lithuanian ones. And then we do that weighting and KPIs on everything. And how do we do that? Well, we have our own formula, right? But we share that formula with industry experts and some of the incubator managers themselves to consult and make sure that we have the right weighting, the relevant KPIs, and that we are on track of what we do. The adjustments, I'm not going to drag so much about it, but we adjust in terms of the type, in terms of the age, in terms of the size of the incubator, and in terms of the sector, just as mentioned before. So when doing the survey, when we are benchmarking the business incubators, we have a lot of profile questions as we ask. Who are they? How old they are? What kind of budget? Things like that. And this information is really important when compiling the benchmark, when compiling the ranking, so we can adjust accordingly. There's a difference between benchmarking and ranking. So when we try to benchmark, we do a lot of adjustments, of course, and everything that we spoke about earlier, so we can compare all incubators against each other. But when we do a ranking, we want to take it a step further to really compare apples with apples and pears with pears in that sense. And the way we have defined it is the university aspect, because there is a big difference of university managed and university affiliated incubators versus business incubators that have no non-affiliation but works really closely. So we have two types of rankings, which is called the University Business Incubator, that are either managed or affiliated, and the University Associated Business Incubator rankings, that are a university that has a close relationship. This year we added a third category of all the great feedback we got from last year, is that we separated the accelerators out of the incubators as well, to make it even more comparable. But we still have the university aspect there as well. So, but here in terms of the university business accelerators, they either have to be managed or affiliated. We don't accept non-affiliation or private accelerators in the UBI rankings. The recognitions and all the release of the rankings will be released in October and November this year, and you can read all about it at ubiglobal.com/awards. So, how do we know and why does the UBI Global Benchmark work? Well, it's reliable, it's tested, and it's highly robust. We know that this methodology uses a standardized framework. Everything is research based. We have a big international international board of experts and advisors. We have a quite large data set. Over 550 incubators right now have been benchmarked. It's a quite well tested benchmarking process, and it's accurate and quick, and therefore it's highly reliable and robust. So let's go to the fun part. the preliminary results. How does the incubation landscape of 2015 look like? Well, I showed this in a webinar a couple of weeks back on a global perspective. So we had more than 500 incubators from 73 countries in 6 geographic regions that applied, and of them 320 got benchmarked, but we actually increased that to 330 when after that we showed that webinar. And this is how it looks like for the North American one. And again, it's important to say it's still preliminary results. We're still working in the back end. We're still making sure that everything is correct. The final version will be available in beginning of July, but it's gonna not be that much of a difference. We have quite a good sense of how it look like. So in terms of North America, it consists of 2 countries this year only. It's Canada, Canadian incubators, and it's American incubators. And we had 58 incubation programs benchmarked out of 133 that actually applied. In terms of the spread, a lot of those incubators have social innovation focus, and the reason for that is part of the CISCO project is included here, where we had a really big focus on social innovation program focus one. But outside of that, 20% of the incubators, around 20% or 19% are ICT focused one, and then we have some life sciences, non-specialized, and others. This graph here tells in what stage the companies are in at the incubation program. So we asked the incubator managers in terms of stage of enrollment. Are they in the idea phase, in the early phase, in the growth phase, or acceleration phase? And many of the incubators have in the early phase. Here. Why is this important? Well, for example, when we look at job creation figures, we need to adjust accordingly. So, for example, if an incubator creates 5 jobs in the acceleration phase versus an incubator that have 5 jobs of the companies, majority of the companies work in the idea phase, we're gonna promote the idea phase, the 5 jobs number higher, because they're such in an early, but they're still doing some impact. That's just one way of using the phases, and we're using that again for a lot of things as well. But it's a good sense to see when, at what stage the incubatees are incubated in that way. So, of those 58, how does it look like? Well, what we noticed is that almost 50% of them are university managed incubators. So majority of the program is operated by the university. Then we have 28% that are affiliated with universities. So not managed, but has a formal affiliation. They can be part of the board. There's a contract signed, and the university has a role, but not maybe the managing role or the most dominant role. And then we have 23% university non-affiliation. So when we do our rankings, we do category 1 and category 2. We compile them for our university business incubator ranking, and category 3 we extract for our university associated business incubator ranking. In terms of the university accelerator ranking, we only accept category 1 and category 2. That's the way we have chosen to do it this year, and again we try to improve it and take feedback from the industry to see how we can make it better. Types of enrollment. So this is a trend that we have seen, and it's increasing. Not all client startups or the incubatees does necessarily need to be physically present. More and more incubator programs, what we have found, are accepting virtual enrolled clients, and this is expanding, and we truly think that it's an interesting idea, and we see that growing each year, but still showing some great impact results. So most of you know, right? When think about an incubator, and when you started, the first thing somebody said, we need to have a facility, we need to have a building. Well, it's 2015 now. The technology has caught up with the way people work. Everything is integrated, and you can actually do quite a lot virtually as well. And then at some point, come and have physical presence. But for during the whole incubation duration, we see a bigger trend of virtual incubations, which I think is quite interesting. Location. So where are the incubators located? Well, 61% of those 58 are in urban cities, and semi-urban cities is also quite big, and 5% are rural, and 11% can be in other places, so that others can be again virtual or a mix, and things like that. We are using this location data as well for making adjustment, because we know an urban incubator probably has a higher deal flow than a rural one. So we have to make an adjustment when we look at the attraction part and in terms of the deal flow. So yeah, I think that's an interesting point of view to keep track of. For profit, non-for-profit. This is not quite surprising. That the non-profits is 9 out of 10 are of the incubator programs are non-for-profit. What I think is interesting here is that later on, when we look at who are the top incubators, what types of program are they, and from last year, if I remember it correctly, we had more for-profit incubators than usual, than normal, or from the year before. So just because you are a for-profit incubator doesn't mean that you cannot do something good, or the other way around. We know that there are different types of program out there, and we try to highlight what's the best practices and what's the processes and how do they work. Incubation program age. So how old are the incubators? Well, 6 of the incubators that we benchmarked just started in 2014, but many of them were founded in 2012, and then we go back. So as you can see, there's an increase of programs started after the financial crisis in 2008, which I think is quite interesting to know, because of course the states, the governments, the cities, the municipals, everybody around there has sought out that, hey, an incubator is, we need to start one to boost the economy and enhance it in some way, and the Y Combinator and all the Techstars were founded. So it has been a boost, a trend the past couple of years. When we look at the average duration that an incubator stays, incubatee or a client startup stays at an incubator, is around 33 months, but that's across all sectors. So that means life sciences, biotech, ICT, social innovation, everybody's included. This number varies, of course, quite a lot when you slice and dice the figures and only looking at sector specific. But when we cross all, it's around 33 months for the North American landscape. So the incubators, how many people are they? How many employees do they have to run their operation? Well, 54% have only up to 5 full-time employee equivalent in that sense. But quite every fourth of incubator has between 6 and 10, and I think that seems to be a good number. Under 10 people seems to be the number to run a program, but you can even do it with up to 5. There's not, and then there's a couple of incubators that have a really high staffing as well, with more than 20. Yeah. So the number of employees can also be connected to the number of client startups. And here again, many incubators, and this is quite surprising, I would say, in the US or in North America, is that 30% have more than 40 client startups currently enrolled, and this number is quite high for the number of employees and what we have been seeing. So does it mean that it's the facilities and the space has increased? Well, yes and no. It's also connected to the discussion that we had earlier in terms of the virtual enrollment as well. That has led that an incubator can handle more companies and help around. And we also, of course, see that it's been a refinement in terms of the processes and the programs. You can help more people at the same time to create that impact that you get. But between 11 and what would you say? I'm sorry. Between 6 and 20 companies, that is 40%. You see that if I add these two, that's kind of seems to be the normal when we look at as an average. Operational budget. Well, you don't need that much of a budget to run an incubator program. We actually have every 10th incubator have just up to 50K per year to run a program. So that means there's a lot of volunteers out there. That a lot of people are champions and doing some great work. But less than $1 million seems to be quite of a high number. And of course, we have a couple of incubators over here that has a big budget to run the programs. And when we look at the data and in sector specific, this sometimes is correlated with the life sciences and biotech incubator programs, because they need to run the facilities. They need all of the labs and everything around it. While when you have a volunteer program, or when you have an ICT focused program, well, it's a Wi-Fi hotspot and a coffee machine, and you're kind of up and running. So the operational budget seems to be connected, of course, to the size of the university, but also depending on the sector focus. And how is this budget allocated? So 44% of the money goes to salaries, 12% goes to space, and then we have some infrastructure, marketing, communication, events, investment fund, and others. And here we also see, of course, some increase in terms of events and marketing, and we actually promote that quite well in our benchmark. You have to communicate with the ecosystem and the stakeholders that you have, and you have to make sure that you show off the work. You have to show the companies. So we are promoting those activities quite well, and we hope the incubators get that funding, or allocate that funding in terms of their budget, at least, to put more efforts on that. Okay, guys, that was the numbers. It was quite a lot. I hope you enjoy it, and we will share all of these numbers and some more with all participant incubators. They will also be available on our website. I just want to share some of the benefits the incubators that have participated also received from the UBI benchmark. So what we will send, or what we will offer free of charge for all participants, is an opportunity to get recognized. And it's not just a local recognition or even national recognition, it's a global recognition. And I think that's very, very unique. We provide each incubator with a beautiful design scorecard, which is an infographic of the performance. Together with that scorecard, also we have some PowerPoint slides which all incubators receive for showing internally the work that they have been doing. We also provide them an executive summary, or annual benchmark report. We do a video presentation when we go through where we go through the performance, and we send everybody in regular mail actually a certificate of participation explaining what they have been doing and how it has been conducted as part of the UBI benchmark. So we also asked, of course, the incubators, what do you see as a benefits? And when you ask that question with over 300 incubators, you kind of get a sense of all the great things. But many incubator managers says, well, UBI, we like you because as a third party, you provide us arguments for funding. No matter if we are good or not performing that good, it's great material as an external party to come so we can communicate with our stakeholders so we can receive more funding. So funding opportunity seems to be the number one thing. The second thing is a great market channel. So just by participating and hopefully you become a top performing one, you get a lot of free visibility and credibility out there. What incubator managers also said is that, well, they love the UBI reports and infographics together with the PowerPoints because it's quite easy, very consumable, and it's great for sharing to the board of directors or for the universities or other stakeholders, because what everybody needs to do is to communicate to show impact, and this is, I think, that the strength of UBI. We're helping you to show that impact. And then if you think about it, we also are providing a strategic and monitoring tool. So just by asking the right question, doing the benchmark, you get insights. You can use that for strategy meeting. You know what to measure and monitor and keep track of your improvement. And I think those are the key arguments that are the most important one why business incubators participate in the UBI benchmark. And of course, in terms of the credibility, it doesn't hurt that you get that to get that recognition. So it's in national and global newspapers and blogs and social media that are highlighting a really good program, which we think is great. So if we can help there, if we can show the impact to the relevant stakeholders, we will love to do that. So what's the next steps ahead? Well, many incubators, they are now in the process of getting all of their individual presentations. In the month of June and August, we are conducting qualitative interviews with the top performing ones to dig deeper into their performance and the best practices. Everybody that have ordered something from UBI, a membership package, a PowerPoint presentation, a publication, we're working with that during the summer, and we deliver everything in beginning of August. But then comes the fun part, the UBI Awards. And this year we have some news and some great excitement ahead of us. What are the news? Well, this year we decided to release one ranking every week from end of September till middle of November. We're going to be in 7 places all over the world, and we have confirmed 4. So the first one is the Latin American ranking, which we're going to Bogota with EAN Universidad as a co-host to release the Latin American rankings. But the rankings is just a small part because it's a networking opportunity and a workshop and best practices sharing session as well. And in the end, we have some dinner, and we invite press and media to reveal the ranking. The week after that, we go to Saudi Arabia, in Tuval or in Jeddah to show the MENA rankings. The week after that, we have the European rankings in Turin, in Italy, and then we come to the North American rankings. And this year we are partnering up with OCE Ontario in Canada, so that means that we're going to be in Toronto. So we look forward to have you guys there, where we are showing some great networking opportunities and events, and everybody will get invited. But here's the key thing to remember is that it's going to be prioritized for UBI silver and or gold members. So that means that if you really want to make sure that you get a slot, that you network and you want to meet us and meet other great top incubator programs, that's the only argument that you need for becoming a silver or gold member of the UBI. The world rankings is going to be, we have a surprise there. We don't want to reveal too much, but it's going to be in end of November, and it's going to be something special. If you want to get access to UBI global data, metrics, the networking opportunity, we recommend everybody to log into our website, ubiglobal.com/member, see what's in there, sign up for our newsletter, for the blogs, and we will love to have you on board and share all of the insights and best practices that we have got, so we help building the incubation of tomorrow. With that said, I would like to invite you guys for any questions that you might have of the things that we have shown and discussed today. Thanks a lot, and I hope you enjoyed it.